Hello and welcome to Colin's Wonder. Today we have another Penmore's video. It'll be for the Laban 325 in the Ocean variant. So you can look at here, this pen. Give you a good close-up view. I'll take off the cap. You can look at the nib. Honestly, I think this pen looks better uncapped. It looks pretty good. When I bought this pen, almost all the marketing material I saw had it uncapped. You see the uncapped with the cap next to it. If it had marketing material, I must have just blinked it out where it's capped. I didn't really pay attention. I do think the cap is too fat for it. It aesthetically doesn't look good to me. But yeah, this is in a still nib. I believe this is a fine nib. So let me see, does it say? So I will double check and annotate the video if it's not a fine nib, but I believe it's a fine. Yeah, so let's see. What do I like about this pen? Well, I do like this ocean resin. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Esterbrook-ish, but its own style of it. I actually do like the ivory color. I think this uncapped pen looks great. It writes really well. This weight is perfect for me. It has a good weight. It's not too heavy. It's not too light. It feels solid. It feels nice. It also, I don't like, let's get into my don't likes. I don't like the cap. So I don't like the cap. I think it's too fat for the pen. And also, I don't know what it is, but I do have issues sometimes threading this. So I'm always super careful, so I don't want to ever cross thread. But this one always wants to cross thread. So luckily I haven't done it, but it just feels like it's going to cross thread on me one of these times. So I always have to be careful when I put it in. It is a cartridge converter pen, so I think it takes just a standard cartridge converter. The one thing I will say is my cartridge converter that I got with this pen, it was loose or something. It could be user error. It could be my whole problem, but it was something I ran into with this pen. Is I was filling it in a bottle, and I had to submerge this section pretty deep in the bottle so I could get the ink to come up to the nib, so it would actually pull up into the feed and into the cartridge converter. And as I was doing that, I guess I couldn't really see what I was doing, but somehow the whole cartridge fell apart and the whole feed and grip and everything went right into the bottle of ink, and it was a pain. It was just like I don't know what it is. I have bad luck with this pen, as you see here. I just dropped it everywhere, and it was almost like out of a movie where one bad thing led to another. Because as I was trying to clean it and taking it apart, then I had something, I can't even remember what it was. It was one of the little metal parts fall off of the cartridge converter as I was taking it apart and went down my sink. It just like bounced and rolled. It was just like one of those like 1 in a million probabilities of happening. I wasn't anywhere near the sink, and it just did it. And I was just super frustrated. That was a bad day. So I had to go and fish that out of my sink. That was not fun. So this pen's been a ride for me. I really was super excited when I ordered it, but when I got it, little thrown off by the size of the cap. Let's see, does it post? That's a question that some people want to know. guess. I don't really post my pens, as I said before, but I guess this one posts. I mean, that just looked weird. I'm sorry. I would not post this pen. I wish it was a piston filler, to be honest. I think, anytime you have this Infinity this big, it's me as well, but I love piston fillers and back filler pens. So, yeah. Anyways, let's get into would I recommend this pen? Yes, if you like how it looks. Simple as that. I think the price is fair. I think it's a salt. It's very well built, except for the threads are a little concerning to me. But it does have a thread stop. Just I don't know why they want to cross thread sometimes. So just be careful with that. But it feels well built in every way. I do like that little focus. Yeah, that little detail on the end or on the cap on the finial there. It it looks really good. I like that. So yeah, I would recommend this pen if you like how it looks. Would I buy this pen again? No. I kind of was thrown off by how big this cap is. I've said it a million times, and I'm sorry, but yeah. So with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to our writing sample and then jump into ink wars. So, that's for my previous one. We'll just go right under it. So let's not waste paper. Let's see here. So, what ink do I have in this pen? I can't even remember. I'll have to check my currently inked. All right, I'm back. So it turns out that I checked my currently inked, and it is Tsukio. It's a Pilot Iroshizuku ink. So let's go ahead and get back into the writing samples. So my camera actually kind of died on me, so I had to reset it. So it's here. So by Pilot. So yeah, I do like how this pen writes. I think I said this before. It kind of reminds me of like a fine tip Sharpie. Um, just feels good. Not quite scratchy, but maybe. Okay. All right, let's get back onto the pen wars. So let me flip it over. Okay. So the pen, Laban, and actually, let me check that real quick. Okay, so I checked. It is actually a fine nib. So fine nib. I went to my order history. It is a fine. All right. So the shape. Well, this is a tough one because I like that shape. I hate it with the cap. The cap is just too bulbous. I mean, I like the little gold rings, the accent rings. I think they're fine. I actually like how many there are, and I like how they line up. I like how there's a thread stop. But I just hate how bulbous the cap is. So again, I kind of pre-filled this out. So I'm kind of hard on this pen because I was disappointed. I'm gonna give it a 4. And the nib, overall, is a very nice nib. It writes really well, but it's a little generic. So I rate this as a 7. The clip, the clip, see, again with the cross threading, I'm not trying not to cross thread it. So, the nib itself, I'm going to give an 8. And honestly, I think I'm going to try to give it some bonus points for originality. It is kind of like to me, a unique pen with how bulbous the cap is. So that gives me, 24 to 30, which corresponds to a 16. Okay, so let's move on to build. The materials do feel very premium. The resin, the metals they used, it feels premium. This little finial cap. I do like it, so I'm gonna give it an 8. It does feel well machined. I would maybe give it a really high score if it weren't for those threads. So I'm gonna give it an 8. The nib alignment, it does have a little bit of a little skewampus, misaligned nib and feed. It's always been that way. It hasn't really caused a writing issue. It's just always been that way, and I don't really want to try to fix it. So I'm going to give that an 8. And an 8 on imperfections. Spare parts, I mean, I could replace the nib with a generic nib. So, I mean, there's something there, but that's pretty much true for most pens. I'm not going to give it any bonus points for spare parts. So that should bring, 32, 40. And this goes to another, looks like, 16. So 20. Okay. The filling mechanism is a cartridge converter. So that just goes to a 7. The clip. So this tension and the clip actually functions as intended. It feels like a very solid clip. It doesn't have too much tension in it. So I'm going to give it full marks there. Flaws. Let's see. What flaws? Well, the nib misalignment kind of seems like a flaw to me. I don't understand with how it's designed, how that can happen. Another flaw, I think I'm going to hold it against the cartridge converter just falling apart on me. It feels still, even now, I've tightened it pretty tight, but a little loose. So I'm going to hold it against it a little bit on design. So I'll put that, or the flaws, so I'm going to put that to an 8. Doesn't have any special features. So that's a 25 out of 30. And that gets it 16.7. Okay, skipping. I don't really have any skipping issues. Hard starts. I gave it full marks before, so I'm going to leave it at full marks. The ink flow has always been great. The weight's great. I guess it's easy to clean. Again, I don't know what to do with that categories. For now, every pen's going to get a 10 out of 10. And the writing, it's a good writer. So this gets pretty high marks in this category. I was pretty mean up here. So this will get a 19.7. All right. And now for price. The price, it was 120 bucks. I think I got it for Colt pens. So 120 bucks. I think it even went on sale cheaper than that. I mean, just for the feel of it and the overall quality, it does. I just wish it didn't have that thread issue. I would be much happier about giving that recommendation, but I do think it's worth it. 8. And the brand, I think it's a pretty respectable brand. It's um it's up there, so we'll give it a 7 there. So overall, that should add up to 83.4 on the score. So let's see here. Oops. Um, Close up on the scorecard. So you can read it. And then I'm going to skip back over here and do something I did my last video. And I'll probably do this before I get to Pen Wars moving forward. I just want to measure the line thickness. Again, it's a little tricky because it's like, where do you measure? But this looks to be about a 0.47. Let me double check it. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 0.47 on the line thickness. So yeah, overall, that's the Penmore's review for this pen. So if you have any comments, please leave them below. Consider subscribing. Feedback's appreciated, and I hope you have a nice day.